Why do the heathen rage, and the people imagine vain things? The kings of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, Let us break their bands asunder, and cast away their cords from us. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh at them. The Lord shall have them in derision. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, Thou art my son. This day have I begotten thee. Ask of me, and I shall give thee the heathen for thine inheritance, and the utmost parts of the earth for thy possession. Thou shalt break them with a rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them in pieces like a potter's vessel. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all they that put their trust in him. Welcome to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries, to the house of truth and righteousness. Today, we have a very special subject that we are going to examine and to present to you some of the values of a good understanding pertaining to this subject matter. The subject today is the power of faith. The power of faith. I know sometimes the way it is used today, it is trivialized. People look at faith and they use it with different philosophies. Like they'll say, for example, the Christian faith, the Muslim faith, whatever. But that is not correct. That is wrong, but not just wrong, it's ignorant. But as I like to tell you, we are not here to discredit anyone. We are here to enlighten, to educate. We're not just going to say things to get people annoyed, but we have to correct you if you are wrong. And I know that the truth will hurt, but it will set you free and it will make you smarter. So, what is faith then? Faith is a spiritual gift from the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob to his Israelite royal family. A special gift from our Father to his Son and his daughter. Hence, faith is one of our Israelite superpowers. This is how I like to think of it. An Israelite superpower. It gives us the ability to be in this world, but not of the world. So right there, those of you who were here this morning would remember the word sanctification. Faith is our sanctification. That's a different subject matter. But it allows us to be in the world, but not of the world, not governed by the ways of the world. So to be sanctified by the truth, that is what faith allows or us as Israelites, the royal family of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, to benefit from. By faith, and I'll give you a few examples, we parted the Red Sea and destroyed Pharaoh's we destroyed Pharaoh and we destroyed his powerful Egyptian army. Keep in mind that at that time, Egypt was the most powerful nation on the planet. We destroyed them, but here's the key. We did not use any physical weapons. How is it that we can destroy the most powerful nation on the planet without the use of any physical weaponry? By faith, we were able to do that. By faith, since the year 1619, we sang our biblical songs, biblical history, and culture without using the Bible. These sounds were known as the Negro spirituals. And these songs set the tone for all American music, all the different genres of American music. We did that by faith. We didn't have any Bible when we came to the New Egypt, which is the United States of America. By faith, we sang those songs. And we didn't just sing one or two, there were thousands of them. You can check it out for yourself. By faith, we followed the superior wisdom of our master teacher, our elder Shadrach Porter, and helped to restore the pillar of truth, which is the house of Israel, right here at the border of the New Egypt, which is the United States. Again, faith, which is that gift from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to his chosen family. Our family established the pillar of truth in ancient Jerusalem back in the day with Joshua at the helm. And again, it was established, and take your time when you get a chance and look it up. Ancient Jerusalem was at the border of the old Egypt. Do you see that pattern? We established the pillar of truth at the border of the new Egypt today, as it was established at the border of the old Egypt back in the day. I like that. I like that pattern effect. From Jerusalem, we settled Western Africa and established the pillar of truth at Timbuktu in Western Africa. There at Jerusalem then, and Timbuktu was one of the higher levels of education in Africa at the time. At that time, or shortly thereafter, we were sold by Muslims to Christians and transported on the Christian slave ship to the Americas. Having done certain things, then we suffered certain processes afterwards. And again, it may or may not have anything to do with faith, but these are things that had to occur. That's a whole different chapter. History then confirms that only one nation was ever transported by ship and sold into slavery. That would be our nation. In the New Egypt, we embrace the wisdom of our elder Shadrach, and we return to our everlasting covenant with the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, creator of heaven, earth, humans, and life. So to summarize then, faith, a gift from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to us. And even though we were enslaved, we still followed the wisdom of our elder and established the pillar of truth at the border of the New Egypt, the same way it was established in the days of Joshua at the border of the old Egypt. Again, there's a certain synchronism in the pattern here. By faith, we established the pillar of truth right here, as I said, in Toronto, Canada, what I like to call the New Jerusalem. This location aligns perfectly with the destination of the Underground Railroad. Again, these you might look upon as coincidences, but if you attach the process or the event with the gift of faith, you will see a lot more wisdom. I know this is a month where a lot of people, they talk about so-called Black history. So I'm trying to make it easy for people to relate to that you cannot have that history or the culture without faith. That's what I'm talking about in this introduction. So secretly, the Jacobites, the children of slavery, they recognized that Canada was the land of Canaan. They secretly did that because they wanted to come to Canada to get out of the slavery. All I'm saying to you now is that had it not been for the gift of faith, they would never be the Underground Railroad, and they would never be the destination here at Toronto, Canada, which aligns with what our elder Shadrach has established by faith, establishing the pillar of truth here at the same destination that the slaves were running to, away from the New Egypt. Again, I'm just saying it so that you could connect to see the benefits of faith, even at a time when it had, even though it had nothing to do with what we established here with our elder, it was still a prelude that helped to establish the precept of faith in what I like to say is the New Jerusalem. So they secretly knew that Canada was Canaan's land. It was like the land of freedom from the old Egypt, because they went to Canaan from the old Egypt, right, after they came from the wilderness. And today, from the new Egypt, they come into what they call Canaan's land as well. However, don't write that off too quick, because history confirms that North America was discovered by the Canaanites, who were the Phoenicians and Tyrrhenians, even before the Europeans settled here. So by faith, our elder Shadrach rebuilt our Israelite nation within the nation of Canada at the border of the New Egypt, just as it was, as I said before, in the days of the old Egypt. Again, I'm saying it so that you can connect the pattern and reflect on that and see, how is it that we can do today what was done in the past, except by some measure of faith? That's all I'm trying to suggest. And that's the easy part of this. But I want to go to 1 Corinthians so that we could get a good understanding of this concept. 1 Corinthians, let's go to chapter 12, and we'll read from verse 1. It says, remember, I said faith is a spiritual gift from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to his Israelite children. It says, now concerning spiritual gifts, brethren, I would not that ye be ignorant. This is Paul. He says, ye know that ye were Gentiles. He's talking to the Gentiles, carried away unto these dumb idols, even as ye were led. As you know, the Europeans used to worship all these images, Zeus, Mars, Jupiter, you name it, whatever they had. And it's the same thing that they do today, even here in America as well. Verse 3, wherefore I give you to understand that no man speaking by the Spirit of God calleth Jesus accursed, and that no man can say that Jesus is the Lord but by the Holy Ghost. Now, there are diversities of gifts, but by the same Spirit. This is why I ask you to consider the pattern, because that pattern, whether it's in the old Egypt or the new Egypt, was all properly aligned by the gift of faith. It says, now consider, now these are diversities of gifts, but by the same Spirit. Verse 5, and there are differences of administration, but the same Lord. And they are diversities of operations, but it is the same God which worketh all in all. They're all under the same umbrella. That's the key. So even though we were separated through our disobedience, and I know that's a whole different chapter, we were still under that umbrella because we had a covenant with the God of Israel, and this is one of the reasons why we were enslaved. But I'll get to that in a minute. Verse 7, it says, but the manifestation of the Spirit is given to every man to profit withal. Verse 8, for to one is given by the Spirit the word of wisdom, to another the word of knowledge by the same Spirit, to another, this is verse 9, listen to this, faith by the same Spirit. So you have these gifts, wisdom, knowledge, faith, same Spirit, which is the Spirit from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. To another the gift of healing, but by the same Spirit. To another the workings of miracles, prophecy, and discerning of spirits. And you can go on and read the rest as much as you want to. But it's all the same spirit. So when you see a pattern that looks familiar, investigate it, and you will see if it has to do with the Israelites, then it also has to do with the God of Israel. Even though they're not in the old Egypt, they happen to be in the new Egypt. Even though they were enslaved in the old Egypt, guess what? They're also enslaved in the new Egypt, right? And as Joshua built the the temple, the civilization in Jerusalem of the Israelites at that time. So they did the same thing here, and I'll prove that to you in a minute. All I'm saying is different location, same pattern. Why? Because we're under the same spirit. And that is where the gift of faith plays a significant role. Now, thanks to our humility, or the humility of our elder Shadrach and the obedience that he displayed, we gained access to the spirit of faith. He led us to through the straight and narrow path of truth. Remember, the straight and narrow path, right? Which was hidden from the world, hidden in plain sight from the rest of the world. How is it that very few will find that path? Except if you look at the other path, it's wide, right? And there are many that follow accordingly. But on the path that leads to the Israelite nation, the path of truth, there's just a handful. Right now, there's what? How many people here? 20? Including the AVT? You know, I like that. Personally, I only want 7 people. Okay, I'll take 12 then. 12 people in this nation. You know why? Because it is not about numbers. It's about faith and trust in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As I said before, how is it that we could destroy Pharaoh and his army at the Red Sea and we did not have one bow and arrow in our hands? No physical weaponry whatsoever. And again, what did Joshua do? And I don't want to get into it because I think Elder Vallis coming after me. He might get into some of that for you. But Joshua did not have any weapons either when he destroyed the walls of Jericho. How did that happen? You see what I'm saying? So if you have the gift of faith, you are able to perform miracles. And Paul outlined a lot in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. When you get a chance, read it through and see for yourself. And the gift is given to a diverse number of people who are under the umbrella that is provided by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. As I said also, we sang the Negro spirituals. The Negro spirituals we sang were complete history from Genesis all the way through to Malachi. But we got off the slave ship. We didn't have the Bible with us when we got off the slave ship. I didn't have any bags when I got off. Did you? No. You barely had your skin on your body, right? But you sang this Negro spirituals, not just one or two, thousands of them. And they all have to do with your history and culture. So for those people, and I say it again, who think that February is Black History Month, think again. There is nothing about this month that relates to us as a people. If you really want to think about it and put it in proper perspective, consider the month of August. Or more importantly, get in touch with our Israelite nation. We will teach you everything that you need to know about yourself and especially about your God. That's the key, because you cannot move forward the way we are supposed to without knowing our God. Because believe it or not, we are an extremely spiritual people. It is just that our spiritual alignment is wrong because we lack the faith that is needed to align us properly. We are some of the best athletes. We are some of the best singers, some of the best dancers. Correct me if I'm wrong, right? But somehow, with all of these gifts, we still can't make it. We're still at the bottom. we still don't have the respect that we deserve. We don't get it. If we don't respect ourselves, others are not going to respect us. It is as simple as that. You cannot blame another person for our faults. We have to consider it. Why? Because 99% of us are going to the Christian shrine every Sunday. How is it that the Christians are the ones that enslaved us? They brought us from Western Africa on the slave ships. They own the ships. One of those ships was called Jesus, right? Let me tell you something. I'll pause for a minute. Anyone tell you about Jesus, unless it's an Israelite, and a qualified Israelite at that, don't take that person seriously because it's only going to hurt you. It's not going to lift you up. When an Israelite tells you about it, the first thing that I'm going to say is, Jesus was your brother. He was your brother. Now read the Bible and see all the things that he did. You can do that too if you apply yourself correctly. So these are the conditions that we have to understand and appreciate. That's considered knowledge of self. And you cannot blame another person if you go to their shrine every Sunday in the middle of the damn graveyard. Notice I said damn. Every Sunday amongst the dead and calling on a God that you don't even know. If you blame them for your failure and your mistakes, you know what that's called? Hypocrisy. You're nothing but a big stinking hypocrite. So leave him alone and their family. Let them do their thing. We're not saying that what they're doing is wrong. We're saying it's wrong for us. It's not wrong for them. And everybody is not equal. I don't believe in 100% equality because otherwise we'll all be the same. There would be all humans and there are no animals and plants or anything. But anyway, that's another chapter. So Elder Shadrach led us through on the straight and narrow path of truth, which was hidden, as I said, in plain sight from the rest of the world. So you might ask, how is it that the path is there, but only we can see it? First of all, we were chosen. That's the first thing. We were called, we heard the call, and we responded to it positively. So then our eyes were open and our ears were open so we can see what other people don't see. We can hear what other people can't hear, even though they're our best friends, right? So he led us. And one of the things we observed is by faith, we observe that the gate to the path of truth was covered by living waters. Living waters. I remembered I had a dream. I can't really tell it right now, but anyway. And it just so happened that Elder was in that dream as well. And we went into the water and we saw a lot of things. And it was amazing. But he was the one that had to lead me into the water, into the dream. And then he had to talk to a guy that was there by the water. And he showed us a lot of things. So it's like the guy opened the gate for us. It's amazing. I'll tell you that one secretly, one-to-one, when I see you. But the living waters then covered the gates to the straight and narrow path of truth and righteousness, which all people cannot see. This is why when I tell you that we are the only people on the planet who have the right and the authority to teach from this book and to baptize those that are qualified, you can read that in Matthew 28, 18 to 20. It's not my word that I'm saying. I'm just repeating what's in the scriptures. What our forefather Matthew wrote when he listened to the speech of the Christ who was talking to the Israelite apostles. So it's a family affair, and that family affair is strengthened by faith. Without faith, we are weakened. As I said, faith is a gift. It's from the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob to his Israelite royal family. It's your trust and confidence in his word. How is it that you growing up in your own home, I'm not sure if you're the owner or your parents own the house, but you have to respect your parents. You have to listen to their instructions. It's the same thing with us. Our Father gave specific instructions. They're all written in this book. And this book was written by us, about us, for us. And all the instructions are here, which we are supposed to follow. You follow, you get your blessings. You refuse to follow, you get the curses. But it doesn't mean that this is going to go away. Your faith will strengthen you and allow you to listen to your Father, our Father. And once you follow the instructions, you'll succeed. Now, it may not happen right away, but that's His domain. It's not ours. We have to be patient. That is called trust, faith. You don't want it to happen. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you this, if you ask for something and it happened right away, be very, very, very careful, because usually there's a high price to pay and it may not be pleasant. But that's another chapter. Our faith in our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, it grew even stronger after we discovered that we were the chosen remnant of Israel. I didn't always know this. When I grew up, I didn't know anything. I was ignorant until I was about 30, ignorant of self. And then I happened to meet our elder. And from there, I went from all the way below the earth to almost up to heaven. I can't go to heaven because I didn't come down from heaven. They like to think I did, but I know I didn't. But, that's a secret, by the way. I wouldn't tell that to everybody. But the point I'm making is my awareness of self and my understanding and appreciation without putting anybody down. See, that's another thing. People sometimes elevate themselves because they cuss out everybody else or they speak evil of other folks. No, we don't have to do that. You demonstrate the gifts that you have so that other people can see your prosperity, see your success, and follow. And sometimes, well, not sometimes, all the time, when they follow, you get your blessings. It's like if you have a sales agreement and you go out and you say you sell 4 automobiles. But you get not only your salary, but you also get a bonus. There's always something positive when you do something extraordinary, especially when it aligns with what you were supposed to do. If it doesn't, then everything is negative from beginning to end. So we recognize that we are the chosen remnant of the God of Israel and that we had access to His spiritual messengers, not just the physical ones, the spiritual messengers who connected with us by way of Jacob's ladder. Have you ever heard of Jacob's ladder? Good. Now, Jacob's ladder is not a physical ladder. Get that clear up front. It's not a physical ladder, right? It's a spiritual ladder. Why? Because when you read it, maybe we can go there, Genesis 28, let's see, from verse 10, you will see that Jacob's ladder, let me just go there first, okay? We read from verse 10. It says, "And Jacob went out from Beersheba and went toward Haran. And he lighted upon a certain place and tarried there all night, because the sun was set. And he took of the stones of that place and put them for his pillows, and lay down in the place to sleep. And he dreamed, and behold, a ladder set up." This is a dream. See, that's why I'm saying it's not physical, right? "A ladder set up on the earth, and the top of it reached to heaven. And behold, the angels of God ascended and descended on it." Spiritual messengers. This is what I'm talking about here. They descended and ascended on that spiritual ladder. The significance here is that ladder connected the heavens with Jacob, the Jacobites, the children of Israel. You see, that's the significance. Other people use this ladder. I don't know if you know about the Masonics, the Christian Masonics, the Freemasonry. You will see in their symbolism, they use the ladder. because they want people to believe, and they took it from us. There's no doubt about that, that they can go to heaven and do whatever. But hey, that's on them. Jacob is having a dream, and he is seeing. Notice he didn't see God. He saw his angels, his messengers coming down and going up. Notice he didn't go up. The angels go. That's their path. And these are points that other people miss because everybody think, oh yeah, we can put up heaven. Your dog can die tomorrow and go to heaven. Hell no. If you die, you're not going to heaven. If I die, I'm not going. As much as I would like to go, but am I qualified? No. No flesh can go there. And you can't go up if you didn't come down. You see, even Jesus didn't go to heaven because he didn't come down from heaven. But that's another story. And behold, verse 13, the Lord stood above it and said, I am the Lord God of Abraham, thy father, and the God of Isaac. The land whereon thou liest, to thee will I give it, and to thy seed. And thy seed shall be as the dust of the earth, and thou shalt spread abroad to the west and to the east and to the north and to the south. And in thee and in thy seed shall all the families of the earth be blessed. In his seed. He, Jacob, the Jacobites, the Israelites, we are the only ones that could bless anyone on the planet. You can't get blessed from Christianity. You can't get any blessings from Judaism. You can't get any blessings from Islam. You can't get any blessings from Freemasonry. You could only get them through the Israelite. So why would you want to associate with those people? Especially if they had a hand in our enslavement. If you're going to school and you're studying history about your people, no, don't get me wrong, we had it coming because we are the ones that were disobedient. When you disobey your parents, what do? Huh? You don't want to talk about. See, she doesn't want to talk about it because how many beatings did you get? You see, there you go. But did you not learn anything from those beatings? You learn what not to do. If your mother or your dad knows how to do that and correct you when you're at fault, how much more the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? And where did they learn that? They learned it from him, his instructions. So beatings may hurt, but they will help, especially if you are willing to learn from your mistakes. That's all it is. So when we made a mistake, he didn't get, a branch from the tree and spanked us, but he sent us into the slave ships, and then we got beat. You see, this is what it's all about. And this is what I like about the scriptures. This Bible, everything is clear. Everything, it brings life to you so that you can understand and appreciate whatever is going on. And it is not like something is in a vacuum. Everything has a connection, right? I tell people, how did the United States get to be so rich and powerful? We did it. Now, they might disagree with that, but who helped to build the economic structure? And we didn't collect any salary. But maybe that day is coming too, because the judgment has to come. So all of this, and this is the reason I'm telling you this, is because I want you to understand about yourself and about the rationale behind that. Who is over you? And put your trust there in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Because the same way we got punishment is the same way we're going to get, or we could have the ability to gain our redemption. If we gain our redemption, then we can get our freedom. And we can go from the bottom of the pile to the top. Because it just so happens, and I say it lightly, but it's a very serious matter, that our Father is the King of Kings. So if you think that if your mom or your dad is working at a restaurant and you're going to buy your dinner and your dad says, okay, you know what, normally it's $50, but for you, you're my daughter, $10. You have to take something, you know. He's giving you the discounts for that meal and the good deals. If your mom or your dad knows how to do that, how much more the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob? But he's not the restaurant owner. He owns the entire earth. It's his. He can do anything he wants with it. And if you have any real estate, you pass it on to your children. Any property of value, whether it's jewelry or automobile or what have you, clothing, you pass it on to your children as long as it can fit, right? Otherwise, if it can't fit, you sell it and give them the money. The God of Israel is doing the same thing. But without our faith in his plan, then we're not going to benefit. Because if you don't trust your parents, then how do you expect to benefit from whatever they have? Because that trust is going to grow wider, and it's not only just going to be a disagreement, then sooner or later you're going to separate and you will never see them again for whatever reason. All I'm suggesting here is that with Jacob's ladder, we have the ability, the unique ability to connect with our Father. That's the key. But we cannot connect without that faith. That's what I'm trying to suggest. So he saw the ladder in the dream, and he saw the angels descending and ascending. And then the God of Israel was at the top. And the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob made him some promises and told him, this is what is going to happen to you and your family after you, and so on and so forth. But the biggest gift that he was offering is that within your family, you will be blessed. You'll be able to bless all the people of the earth. So, as I said before, and I want you to connect the different patterns here, we were the only ones that have the ability to teach from the Bible and to baptize those that are qualified. We are the only ones that can bless you. The only ones are, let's put it this way, through us, you get your blessings from the God of Israel. Let's put it that way. And one of the blessings is grace. I know you've heard a lot about grace. There is no grace without faith. And like I said, it just so happens that the faith was only given to the Israelites. So if you want to benefit from faith, you have to know an Israelite. Because when the time comes, then you can benefit from that gift and you get the faith. I think it was Jesus that came with grace and truth. Who was Jesus, as I said? Your brother. So he's your brother. He was an Israelite too. He came, he was born of a woman just like all of us, and he came with truth and grace. An expression of faith. As simple as that. He was raised in that environment, and then he performed accordingly, according to the gifts that he had within from his father, the same way we do. We have gifts, we perform accordingly. Some of us are better teachers, some of us are better cooks, etc. Okay, so it's the same pattern that we're talking about here. Our forefather Jacob then was surnamed Israel. That's why we now are Israelites. And Jacob then, or Israel, was a man. Israel is not a land. The land got its name from us. He, Israel, if you today, they call, if you look at, well, where did America get its name from? Does anybody know? America got its name from my research. I saw Amaruka, which was a flying serpent, a winged serpent, as they call it. Again, you can research it and you'll see. And then you have Britain. They got the name from the British people. They were tribes, Teutonic tribes, that they gave the name. The French got their name from Teutonic tribes, and so on and so forth. All I'm suggesting is the land gets its name from the people. Canada I think that Canada and Canaan there's a connection. I think so. That's to me. And I know that the Phoenicians and the Tyrrhenians, which are Canaanites, they came through Canada and the United States for that matter, and Britain as well. They used to mine tin in Britain. This is way before the Europeans were even can read or write. They did that. But there's a lot there. All I'm saying is the land is named after the occupants of the land, the people that own the land. That's how it works, right? The streets are named after people that had a significant role to play in the development of that neighborhood, right? So Israel was a man, and he was the prince of God. Israel was the prince of God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He was the son of Isaac, and Isaac was the son of Abraham. So you can see there's that human element there. And the reason I say that is because people today would want you to think that there's a land called Israel today. There was called Israel when we lived there. But once we left, it's not Israel anymore. Guess what it was called? Palestine. The Palestine was a German, I'm sorry, a Rush, getting my thoughts are mixed up here. It was a Roman colony. Palestine was a Roman colony. Palestinia, whatever they call it. Anyway, so, and that's a very significant point because I'll connect something with you in a minute about that so that you understand what is going on in the world today. So, Abraham, then, or I should say, Israel was a prince of God. He was a son of Isaac, who was the son of Abraham, and Abraham was the friend of God. The friend of God. And he did not have a lot of friends, obviously, on this level, but Abraham was one of them. And you can check that out for yourself. So, as the chosen witnesses, then, we alone are that royal priesthood of Israel. We alone have the capacity to perform the responsibilities of the priesthood on earth. That's what we're supposed to do. But of course, we failed in that regard. And now we are trying to rebuild that process. We have access. We are the only ones given access to the Spirit of truth. And you can read that in John 14, 15 to 17. You can make a note of it. And I read it a lot. And, well, maybe I'll read it again just to be on the safe side. John 14, 15 to 7. Because these are very powerful statements. And sometimes people may cringe when we say certain things. It says, John 14, 15, if ye love me, this is the Christ speaking to Israel. If you love me, keep my commandments, and I will pray the Father, and he shall give you another comforter, that he may abide with you forever, even the Spirit of truth. There it is. But he didn't finish that. He says, even the Spirit of truth, whom the world cannot receive, because it seeth him not, neither knoweth him, but ye, Israel, you know him, and for he dwelleth with you, and he shall be in you. So we are the only ones that receive the Spirit of truth. That is one of the most powerful elements of any people that you can ever imagine. It means that because there are only two choices, you got the truth and you got the lie. So if we got the truth, it means the rest of the world got the lie. So they cannot tell the truth. I don't care how they slice it, it is still a big, stinking lie. And we have to get used to that. Now, don't get me wrong. If there are things that you see on television or in the newspaper or wherever, you have to take it with a grain of salt. You have to know what are they doing, why are they doing it, is it truthful or is it fake? And today, as you know better than me, with AI, you can have anything, anything, good, bad, or indifferent. But they all, well, 90% of them are lies. Only if one of us do it, then it's different. Because we have the ability to force AI to do what we want rather than what is it, she, he, whatever? I don't know. So that's the key behind it. But to do that with AI or anybody, you have to have the spirit of discernment. All of these gifts are only available through faith. If you don't have faith in our God, can't expect these things. Is that the time already? Only half an hour? Oh my gosh. Oh no, that can't be it. I anyway, you have to put yourself in a capacity or in a place where you could express your faith in the God of Israel if you want to be blessed by him. It is just that simple. Because you, if you don't do it that way, you will fall for anything anyone else says or does. And it may not be truthful. However, you can profit from a lie. You know that, right? Yeah. So, but it doesn't last. But anyway, that's a different story. So we got the spirit of truth. The rest of the world got the lie. I'll prove that. The Vatican, for example, must lie to you and promote the grand liar. Who is the grand liar? Satan. I would recommend to you Elder Ando's video. I forgot what he's called it, but he has a video on what I call immaculate deception, where there's an interview with the Pope, and the Pope lies, or he tells us that he lies to keep us down and elevate himself. Look it up; it's on YouTube. In an effort to invent a one world religion, but I call it a one world religious system, right? Because there's only one religion, which is Israel. And religion, by the way, is the return of the Israelite to his or her father's house, according to the terms of the everlasting covenant. That's religion. It's a Latin derivative. And the word re is telling you that you had to be there before. You're coming back, right? And the legion has to do with the legal side of that return. That's why I said the everlasting covenant. So you cannot just return on at your own perspective or by your own perspective. You got to return. If I'm in your house and you kick me out and then you invite me back, I have to come back and abide by your standards. It is just that simple. And the God of Israel has very high standards. So it has a strong legal connotation, right? So you have to understand that. That's why it is called religion. It is not something that you can just make up. Those are philosophies. And a philosophy is different because a philosophy has to do with speculation. Speculation is just a way of trying to come up to a certain uh, connotation that is acceptable. That's all it is. And you will do anything to get to that, right? Because there's money to be made or whatever. But what the Vatican is doing today and has been for the longest time, listen, I could talk to you for 10 hours about this. I have done a lot of research about it because I needed to understand it. Not that I want to criticize them, I just wanted to understand how the world works. Right? Right now, my friend Donald is having his troops in D.C. Well, a lot of people don't know that the Vatican has a lot of influence in D.C. My friend Donald must know that, right? But that's just one chapter. He has a lot of influence in the entire United States and Canada too. As a matter of fact, I would suggest at least half of your taxes go straight to the Vatican. But you have to investigate that for yourself. So they want to have a one world religious system. As a matter of fact, they call it Chrislam, Chrislam. Chrislam, look it up. You will see that, oh, by the way, Chrislam is a combination of Christianity, Islam, Judaism, Freemasonry. And at the helm is the Vatican, the Pope. And that's why I brought it up, because it's going to affect us one way or another. However, with the Israelite nation, we have a boundary that they cannot penetrate. It just doesn't mean that they'll penetrate or affect your job or how much you pay for groceries or those kind of things. But as far as the spiritual dynamics are concerned, we are off limits. And they know that, but they're still trying to tear us down. That's their job. So the Pope has to gain control over Palestine, as I said before. And the rationale that he uses is because Palestine used to be a Roman colony. So, as a descendant of Rome, he now feels that he's entitled to control that area. So, as a consequence of that, he has invented Judaism and placed the Khazars there. Again, another chapter. And the rationale behind that is Satan must be worshiped from Jerusalem. That is what they want, right? Because remember, when we were there, he wasn't worshiped. That's the only place he didn't get worshiped. All over the world, he was worshiped, but not there. Why? Because we expressed our faith in our God and we did not worship him. Now that we are out and we can't go back, he can have it. And he can take it on. They have what they call the doctrine of discovery, where they can come and take your land and enslave you and make you do what they want. That's historical. Anyway, they want to have that control because their God has to be worshipped from that region, as it is being done now to some extent, since they got back there. I don't want to get into a lot of details, so I'm kind of holding back. Anyway, the point is that the Vatican adopted the Ashkenazi Khazars and used them as pawns in the game. And then they're going through the whole process. That is their style. I take my hat off to them because they're doing a great job. But that's not for us. We are supposed to be the servants of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We are supposed to demonstrate our faith in his holy word and established this new kingdom, his kingdom on earth. This is our responsibility as Israelites. We are supposed to be, like I said, the royal priesthood, the only priesthood on earth. We are supposed to be the governors, the princes, and the princesses of earth. That is our role. That's why we were chosen. We teach his word and we rule. That's what it's supposed to be. But we can't do that without faith. And faith without works is, yeah, we've got to show, we've got to demonstrate, we've got to step up and do the job that we are supposed to do. That's why we were chosen by the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. We have to do a lot of work. And it's not just like we can just go out and do it. We have to fight against the other side because the other side is using our book for everything. They're misusing it, I should say, because they're such good liars, the world believed them and not us. See, look at me. I mean, I'm boring by their standards, right? I speak the truth, but I don't have the dramatic effect that they have when they lie. When they lie, the whole world bows down to them. I don't have that drama. I don't need it. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. If you're good at what you do, that's fine. And I know that Sean is fantastic, but I'm going to learn from her. Anyway, by faith, as the children of Israel, we honored the teaching, or we are honored rather to teach all nations, let's put it that way, concerning the wisdom, the superior wisdom of our Father, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Hence, we are a haven, and this on our board there, this is our mandate, a haven to the true Israelites. We are the gateway to the children of Jacob, and we are a light unto the Gentile Europeans. So everyone has access to us so that they can gain access to the Spirit of truth, so that they can strengthen their faith to worship the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You see, I like the way it flows. First, we set up the pillar of truth. Then it's a pillar of light and it attracts. And those that seek the truth will come and we will teach them. It doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, how much money you got, or if you don't have any money. We will still teach you if you have that desire, if you are courageous enough to want to live a life of truth. Because, as I said, you can make it real big if you lie. You tell the truth in this world, they would always be shattering you. But they can only do that for a certain time. Then it's going to fall on them, not on us. So we have this ability to share this talent. And remember, we don't have to have physical weaponry. We have the truth. We have the faith in our God. No one can touch us, right? Egypt, as I said, they fell at our hands. Um, Joshua at the walls of Jericho, the walls fell at our hands. Joshua didn't have an axe, didn't have a hammer. They sang, they blew the horns. The walls came down. They had a pattern that they followed. Moses didn't have any weapons, but lifted up his rod, the waters fell, the waters parted. Faith, faith in our God, because we're not dealing with Zeus or Jupiter or Mars. We're dealing with the creator of heaven, the earth, humanity, and life. You can't touch that. You can't. You try to touch that, you're dead meat. Simple as that. So faith then is our Israelite secret weapon, our Israelite superpower. But like all weaponry, we have to learn how to use it correctly. We are the royal army of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And we need to position ourselves in a way that we can not only defend our national integrity, but if you cross the line, we'll wipe you out. You see what I'm saying? But we are not here, we don't entertain violence. We don't do that. We're not marching and demonstrating on any street corner. We're not calling people names. We don't do that. Now, if you do something that is wrong, we will call you out on it, especially if it relates to our scriptures, because we have to teach the correct expression in the scriptures. So if that hurts, so be it. As I said, the truth will hurt you, but it'll set you free if you want freedom. And that's the thing that people don't recognize. All of these guys that are leading, whether it's the president, the prime minister, the king, the queen, whatever, they're just pawns in the game. But they don't know that they're pawns in the game. See, we knew when we were slaves because everyone was stepping on us, right? And beating us up. But they don't know. Why? Because they can go into any restaurant, eat, and don't pay. You know what I'm saying? They can get anything they want for nothing. But we can't do that. So they take advantage of that opportunity. And I don't blame them for it. If I were in their position, heaven forbid, I would probably be doing worse than they are. But I'll be rich. Money will be flying out of my hands, left, right, and center. By faith, we are honored to teach the nations. Faith, as I said, is our super weapon, our Israelite secret weapon in this army of God. And since the days of Eden and the satanic rebellion, remember with the fallen hellboys when they got kicked out from heaven, we learned to walk by faith and not by sight. And you can read that in 2 Corinthians 5, 1-8. It says, well, maybe I'll go there and read some of it so that you can have a little bit of understanding, because sometimes it is good to put these things in the proper perspective. 2 Corinthians 5, it says, "For we know that if our earthly house of this tabernacle were dissolved, we have a building of God, an house not made with hands, eternal in heaven." You see, I like this. This concept is one of the best that I really enjoy. What you don't know, I'll tell you a secret, is that we are the temple of truth and righteousness. We are the temple. Back in the day, Solomon built that temple, right? He got help from the Phoenicians, Canaanites, Lebanese, whatever. Today, our elder Shadrach is rebuilding that temple. But we are not using any bricks or wood. We know what we're using instead? We're using flesh and bone. So each one of us is a precious stone. I like that. Each one of us is connected. If you're building a house from bricks and wood, you have to have the cement mortar, right? And you have to have your little tool there, and you get it and you put it there, and you put your brick and you put it up, put another brick. Because without that cement mortar, you can't connect the bricks to build the wall of the house. Guess what our cement is? Truth. We are connected by the truth, the spirit of truth. So we have to demonstrate that faith and show the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, first of all, that he chose the right components to build the temple. And this is an everlasting temple because this temple is not built with hands. There are no tradesmen in here. We come together. We read that this morning too. We come together as one, right? Because I've always used the analogy or the expression, either one, that 12 plus 1 is how much? I like that. That's better than mine because I used to say 2. She says 1. I would still say 2 because you can't get that high. You see what I'm saying, right? But 12, 12 tribes plus 1, one spirit from the God of Israel, is equal to 2. In other words, I'm speaking spiritually here, right? The spirit, the God from God, plus the spirit that he gave to Moses to put on the 12 tribes, one spirit. And one spirit with God is 2. It's not 13. It's only 2. If we apply our faith correctly. If we don't apply our faith correctly, which is happening today, I lost count. I can't count that high. Because everyone has their own place of worship. Everyone has their own name. They got Hebrew Israelites and they got Christians. They got all kinds of Christian Israelites. They're like, I can't keep up with it. It's ignorant. It's stupid. And I can say that because it doesn't follow the precepts of this book. But yet they're all using this book. That's where they make the mistake. So we have to recognize, and you can read the rest of 2 Corinthians on your own, but we are one people building that temple of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. One people. And that's something that we have to recognize, use our faith so that we can take full advantage of that thing. I think they're telling me that I'm out of time. Am I out already? I haven't even gotten halfway through my process. I guess I have to go. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, well, I guess Elder Val is going to come and maybe he will do a little bit better than I had. And yeah, but I'm so sorry because there's so much more that I wanted to share that would really establish this concept of faith so that you can benefit from it. But may the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob continue to bless you real good. Peace. Wow.
Unto thee, O Lord, do I lift up my soul. O my God, I trust in thee. Let me not be ashamed. Let not my enemies triumph over me. Let none that wait on thee be ashamed. Let them be ashamed which transgress without cause. Show me thy ways, O Lord. Teach me thy path. Lead me in thy truth and teach me. For thou art the God of my salvation. On thee do I wait all the day. Remember, O Lord, thy tender mercies and thy loving kindnesses, for they have been ever of old. Remember not the sins of my youth, nor my transgressions. According to thy mercy, remember thou me for thy goodness' sake, O Lord. Good and upright is the Lord. Therefore will he teach sinners in the way. The meek will he guide in judgment, and the meek will he teach his way. All the path of the Lord are mercy and truth unto such as keep his covenant and his testimonies. For thy name's sake, O Lord, pardon my iniquity, for it is great. What man is he that fear the Lord? Him shall he teach in the way that he shall choose. His soul shall dwell at ease, and his seed shall inherit the earth. The secret of the Lord is with them that fear him, and he will show them his covenant. My eyes are ever towards the Lord, for he shall pluck my feet out of the net. Turn ye unto me, and have mercy upon me, for I am desolate and afflicted. The troubles of my heart are enlarged. O bring down of my distresses. Look upon my affliction and my pain, and forgive all my sins. Consider my enemies, for they are many, and they hate me with cruel hatred. O keep my soul and deliver me. Let me not be ashamed, for I put my trust in thee. Let integrity and uprightness preserve me, for I wait on thee. Redeem us, O God, of us all of trouble. Selah and Selah. Amen. Peace, everyone. And thank you, Elder Michael, for starting off today's lesson with the power of faith. One of my favorite Psalms is Psalms 25. And you may ask why? Because in it, David acknowledged life challenges, temptations, and trials. Yet he persevered because of his total dependency on the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. But keep in mind that David was the king of Israel, yet his endurance and perseverance speak volume. Because perseverance means not giving up when life gets tough. Psalms 25 strengthened my faith and trust in the God of Israel. It gives me hope and teaches me perseverance. There will be times in life when your faith gets weak, your trust wavers, your hope is gone, and your patience wears thin. But remember the example of King David and the power of faith. In Psalms 25, verse 4 to 5, David pleads with the God of Israel. Show me thy ways, O Lord. Teach me thy path. Lead me in thy truth, and teach me. For thou art the God of my salvation. On thee do I wait all the day. So here in this verse, King David expresses his total faith and trust in the God of Israel and confirms that his faith builds confident while wait on the true and living God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Unfortunately, the world put their trust in false gods, a gods that have eyes but they can't see, ears but they can't hear, lips and they can't speak. So why should you put your trust in wood and stone? But as Israelites, we put our faith and trust in the one and only true and living God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Too often in life, we become impatient and take matters into our own hands. And when we do, what happens? We usually mess things up. Would you agree? Yeah. Okay, thank you. Look at the story of Sarah, for example. She took matters into her own hands when she offered Abraham her maidservant Hagar instead of waiting on the God of Israel. So when we act out of God's timing, even with good intentions, this often leads to problems. However, when we wait patiently on God and his promises are fulfilled with no backlash, this strengthens our faith. So you can read the story in Genesis about Sarah 15 to 21. So today, I will talk about 3 factors that we need to build this foundation of faith. 1, obedience, perseverance, and endurance. In other words, patience. And each of these goes hand in hand. Not only goes hand in hand, but based on truth. So I'll talk about faith. So let's talk about faith for a bit. Faith is confident in God and his promises, even when we cannot see the physical evidence. So Job is a perfect example of faith. Let's turn to the book of Job, chapter 1, verse 13 to 22. And we'll read from there and see about Job. And there was a day when his son and his daughter were eating and drinking wine in their oldest brother's house. And there came a messenger unto Job, said, the oxen were plowing and the asses beside them. And the Sabeans fell upon them and took them away. Yea, they have slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, the fire of God is fallen from heaven and had burned up the sheep and the servants and consumed them. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While we was yet speaking, came also another and said, the Chaldeans made out 3 bands and fell upon the camels and have carried them away. Yea, and slain the servants with the edge of the sword. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. While he was yet speaking, there came also another and said, thy sons and thy daughters were eating and drinking wine in their eldest brother's house. And behold, there came a great wind from the wilderness and smote the 4 corners of the house, and it fell upon the young men, and they are all dead. And I only am escaped alone to tell thee. Then Job arose and rent his mantle and shaved his head and fell down upon the ground and worshipped and said, naked came I, and out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord taketh away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Wow. So Job lost everything, almost, not everything, but almost everything. His livestock, which was his wealth back then, his children, and also his servants. Chapter 2, verse 9, chapter 2, verse 9, 10 says, Then his wife said unto him, Do you still hold on fast to your integrity? Why don't you curse God and die? But he turned to her and said, You speak it as a foolish woman. Shall we receive good from God always, and shall not receive evil? And all this Job did not sin from his lips. So here in all Job's suffering, Job never lost faith in the God of Israel. Wow. Now, I would say that's faith in action. Mhm. To sum it up, to sum up the story of Job shows that real faith involves patience and trust in the God of Israel. In the book of Hebrews, we see many more examples of faith. So let's turn to Hebrews chapter 11, verse 1 to 3. Now, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. For by it the elders obtained a good report. Through faith, we understand that the worlds were framed by the word of God, so that things which are seen were not made of things which do appear. Okay? So, in a nutshell, we would say that faith is a must in order to have a relationship with the true and living God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. With faith, it is impossible to please him. Without faith, it is impossible to please him. Faith is not merely a belief or emotion, but an active loyalty and obedience to the God of Israel by keeping his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. Faith allows us to believe in the unseen. Just like how we cannot see our internal organs, but yet still we know that they're there. So too, we must trust in the unseen God of Israel, whose evidence is seen in natures and in our everyday lives. So here I'll use an example. For instance, when you look at the moon, the stars, it is evidence. Evidence is in you and I. Because why? Because we are made in his image. Evidence is the fact that every strand of hair on our head is accounted for. So it is insane for the world to believe that an explosion brings life into existence. You and I know when something explodes, what happened? Anybody? Okay. Thank you. It explodes in a million pieces. So the world would call it the Big Bang Theory. But to me personally, the only theory that is bang, I think, is their mind. Yes. So let's continue to verse 7. By faith, Noah being warned of of God, of things not seen as yet, moved with fear, prepared an ark to save of his family and the house and his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness, which is by faith. So you see here, can you imagine living in a time when there was no rain? Instead, the earth was watered by the mist from the ground. Yet the God of Israel tells you to build a massive ship to contain your family and animals, because he was going to flood the earth with rain. Something that we in our time will seem impossible to do without power tools. So just imagine, Noah was given instructions to build an ark that is in today's measurement would be approximately 510 feet long, approximately length, 1.5 length of a football field. Wouldn't you guys say that's long? Yeah. 85 feet wide and 51 feet in height. Now that's high, that's tall, that's very massive. Mhm. So, a question: how many of us today would have faithfully followed those instructions for years without doubting at some point in your life? Mhm. But remember, it is not about the timing it would take about to build. It's about faith and obedience. Again, that is faith in action, I would say. Because faith without action is dead. Mhm. So let's continue reading from verse 8 to 10. By faith, Abraham, when he was called up to go out into a place which he should after receive for an inheritance, obeyed, and he went out, not knowing whither he went. By faith, he sojourned in the land of promise, as in a strange country, dwelling in the tabernacles with Isaac and Jacob, the heir with him of the same promise. Sorry. For he looked for a city which had foundations, whose builders and maker is God. Amen. By faith, Abraham left his home, not knowing where he was going. Sorry.
Oh no, this is perfect. Thank you. So you were asking the question, who would be, let's just say, who would be enduring all of this? And all of us could put up our hands. But I was telling my husband, I says, me, I would never be putting up my hands for anything to do with just the battles that our forefathers went through and overcome, because we could say it, but even in our time today, we don't live it. So how can we put up our hand for any of these? It's the time that you're living when you're called to do something. It's then you will see it. It's when you are in the fire, then you will see it. Because all the stories that you've said and you've gone through already, even with Job, it's because Job has a relationship with the God of Israel. So he didn't have to think, because he lived the life. And I think for us, by faith, if we start living the life, then we'll see the changes. So I do believe, as you're saying it, it's like my mind is going and my mind is just thinking, I got to be in a program. Because you have to switch. I call it now fleshy. I have to switch from being fleshy
Mhm.
to righteousness, to being more spiritual. So the only way I could become a friend or even closer, because I think friend is high. like a high ranking to call yourself a friend of the God of Israel, friend to somebody. It's high ranking. So I think it's now you really have to put yourself on a program for that. And it's only when you love what the God of Israel loves. You know that movie, Coming to America?
Yeah.
And then the marriage, he was supposed to be marrying the girl. And what do you like? What you like? Like there was no thought. I want to come to that point when there's no thought when it comes to the God of Israel. My hand will just genuinely go up because I live that life. And I think that's what we could do maybe in our time, because as you're reading, when the examples is men and women that we can't even compare ourselves to, that we can't be walking in their shoes or putting our hands up. We're not there yet. The littlest thing that happened now, and we're going all over the place. We don't even come to the services of God. Let's just say the basic show up. We don't even do that. So I think the lesson is actually a great lesson for us to refresh the mind and maybe start fresh. We're going into new year, so many things that we need to do to get to the point that you're saying that we need to get to.
Thank you for that, Elder Sophie. So let's continue. By faith, Abraham left his home not knowing where he was going, but trust completely in the God of Israel. Faith is seen as confidence that God is in control, even during oppression and hardship. And so this reminds me of when, so before I go into that, I'll say this. I'll just talk about a little story of myself. So this reminds me of Job when I got the opportunity to come to Canada. So as a young man growing up in Jamaica, my friends and I would often sit down either on the roadside or on my veranda or their verandas, and we'll start talking about traveling. And, because at that time, everybody is migrating, but mostly to America and England. So everyone would say they're going to America or England. So they turned to me and they said, so Vala, at the time, they call me Vala also, and said, so Vala, where do you want to go? And I turned to them, I said, Quebec. And they turned to me like in astonishment because they never hear of Quebec. And I said, so where's that? And I said, to be honest with you, I don't know. But what happened, I read it in a magazine. And I like what I saw in the magazine, Yes. So, they look at me away, but for me personally, I didn't want to go. I'm so different. I didn't want to go where everybody's going. I just wanted to go somewhere different. Right? And to be honest with you, the God of Israel paved my path to be here. So I got the opportunity to come to Canada. I do believe that too. I do get the opportunity to come to Canada. And guess where I end up? Quebec. Montreal, Quebec. Could you imagine that? So basically, what I personally think I did, I spoke my future into existence. Hmm? I had no idea when I come up what the future holds for me, how I'm gonna survive, but I still manage. So I could imagine how Job felt because it was not easy, And so from Montreal, Quebec to Toronto, and that's where led me to the Israelite Nation Worldwide Ministries. Thank you. Yes, you're correct. Exactly. And so this is where I learned the truth from our master teacher, Elder Shadrach Porter, about our culture and who we are as a people, and about the true and living God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. Thank you. Mm. So we'll continue reading from verse 17 to 19. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that had received the promises offered up his only begotten son, of whom it was said that in Isaac thy seed shall be called, accounting that God was able to raise him up even from the dead, from whence also he received him in a figure. Isn't that amazing? So remember, brethren. Oh, sorry.
Peace, brethren, and peace, level. Enjoy your lessons.
Thank you.
I have a question. I know that we come from about similar background back home and all of that, and you have been tested in your grounds back then when you was in the streets.
Yes.
And I know you was a no nonsense man back then in the streets, and you don't play with people back then in the streets. So I know the changes that come when you recognize and realize that you have been called and you have been chosen and you're a son of the one true living God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. How do you deal with these tests that comes along, and can you expound on the tests that you have gained experience through your faith?
Well, oh man, for me to explain and to tell you guys, it would take hours.
Go ahead, we're here.
So you want me to?
Yes, I wanted to.
Okay. Well, okay. So when I came to Canada, or even from Jamaica, there was lots of struggling in my life, right? We weren't, my family and I, we weren't the poorest, but yet still we managed. But coming here to Canada, it was even worse because when I came here, we didn't know anybody, I didn't know anybody, not even the person who sent for me. I knew him from back home. It's when I came to Canada, I get to know that he's related to me. So life wasn't easy. So with the broken promises that I got, that when I come here, everything would be okay. So everything would be paved for me, in other words. But it wasn't so. The same clothes that I had in Jamaica that I used to wear, it was the same clothes that I brought here. And the style pants that we wear, the cutter, the cut and the bottom flare and all those things, so I wear those for years, not even having winter shoes nor winter jacket. Yes, I went to Quebec. But the thing about it, the little money that I came up with, the little money that I came up with, the cousin that ended up sending for me, ended up borrowing that money and never gave back to me. So it's so I'm to be that I end up meeting some people, this lady from Trinidad and her family, her sons and all that. And her son was a friend of my cousin's son. And so, they understand because, they're island people and they come all travel back and forth all the time. and so on. So they're the ones who end up turning around and giving me a pair of shoes and a jacket to keep me warm. So, I could go on and on, but I just want to continue a lesson. So maybe that could be on another lesson. Yes. Well, thanks for sharing that, Andrew. So remember, brethren, that faith doesn't always mean immediate results. It often means waiting and trusting that the God of Israel promise will be fulfilled in his own time, regardless of the circumstances. Through faith and obedience, Abraham was ready to sacrifice his son, Isaac. And that was a test, pass, A+. Imagine the very child through whom the promises were to come, and yet Abraham trusted God that God would be faithful in fulfilling his promises, even if it meant raising Isaac from the dead. To be honest, again, how many of us would obey the commandment to sacrifice our own child? In our time, I think it would be impossible. It would be so hard because our time and Abraham's time is two different times. Back in those days, those guys were full of faith. And to me, again, that's total faith, total obedience, and total trust in the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So once again, we'll continue reading 25, verse 25 to 29. Choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than enjoy the pleasure of sin for a season. Sorry, guys. Esteeming the reproach of, sorry. 20. What was that? No. Sorry, guys. Bear on with me a little bit. So I'll start from 24. By faith, Moses, when he was come to years, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction with the people of God than to enjoy the pleasure of sin for a season, esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than the treasures in Egypt. For he had respect unto the recompense of the reward. By faith, he forsook Egypt, not fearing the wrath of the king. For he endured as soon as seemed like him to invest to whom is invisible. Through faith, he kept the Passover and sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. By faith, they passed through the Red Sea as by dry land, which the Egyptians saying to do were drowned. So you see, here Moses chose to follow the way of God rather than the pleasures of Egypt. He demonstrated total faith and trust in God when he obeyed and stretched out his rod to part the Red Sea. So Job, Noah, Abraham, and Moses and others are a perfect example for us. We learn that faith is the foundation of our walk with God, with the God of Israel. Without faith, it is impossible to please him. With faith, we can move mountains, endure trials, and walk with confidence in the unseen hand of our Creator. Faith is not what you say you believe. It is how faithful you live according to the laws, the statutes, and the commandment of the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. But remember, brethren, that faith and trust goes hand in hand. The more we trust in him, the stronger our faith becomes. So in order to trust in God, we must get to know him. And how do we get to know him? Through prayers, reading of his word, and keeping his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. That's right. So Proverbs 3, verse 5 to 6 says, trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not unto thy own understanding. In all thy ways acknowledge him, and he shall direct thy path. Jeremiah 17, verse 7 and 8 says, blessed is the man that trusts in the Lord, and whose hope the Lord is. Verse 8 says, for he shall be as a tree planted by the rivers of waters, and that spreadeth out her roots by the river, and shall not see when heat cometh, but her leaf shall be green, and shall not be careful in the year of drought, neither shall cease from yielding fruits. So as you can see from these verses, when we trust in God, we are blessed like a well-watered tree. Agreed? Our faith is deeply rooted in his laws, his statutes, and his commandments. And only then are we able to bear much fruits. Trusting God doesn't mean life will be easy. But when you put your trust and faith in him, he will make your path straight. Yes, there might be twists and turns along the way, but remember, he straightens it out in the end. God can be trusted not only because of what he does, but because of who he is. The Almighty God, faithful and just and true. So, patient, we'll go into patient. And what is patient? Patient is the strength of our faith. Patient is the ability to wait despite opposition, difficulty, or adversity. Again, the story of Job is an excellent example of incredible patience, even in time of loss and suffering. So we have a saying in Jamaica, a patient man ride donkey. All Jamaicans would know that. Meaning a donkey moves so slow that you have to have patience in order to ride him. Especially if the donkey don't like you. He will never go anywhere. He even goes slower. In today's world, we have very little patience. It's all about instant gratification for us. Mm. It's not like time passed before when it took time to do most things. We had no choice but to make or do most things from scratch. Making our own bread by hand from scratch, get the milk by milking the cows, even making your furniture from scratch. And that wasn't easy, but we did it. Okay, question. Who remember back in the days when we had no remote? Okay, there you go. Mhm. There you go. We had to get up from where we were sitting and turn the TV on and to turn the channels, right? You turn it up and down. Today, in today's world, because of convenience, it's just a click of the button, right? And yet still, by just the click of the button, and sometimes even to get up to get the remote, it's a problem. It's like it's too hard. We find it so hard. Mhm. Again, before we had washing machine, we had to wash our clothes by hand, piece by piece, which took a lot of time and required lots of patience and endurance. But we had no other choice. We had to do it. There was no machine back then. And to be honest with you, we take pleasure in doing it. You know, especially for me and my brothers, when we were going to school, like our mother teach us how to wash our uniforms, our khaki uniforms by hand, right? And so every Saturday we'll get our bucket, put our clothes in it, and we scrub and all that. Not only our uniform, but all our clothes, every piece. And we usually take pleasure in doing such things. But especially what we take pleasure in doing, especially, is when we wash our clothes, especially our uniforms, and we will use starch. How many of you remember starch? Okay, there you go. Yes, exactly. Because the reason why we take pleasure in using starch, because when we iron Sunday, right, our pants, the seam was so sharp that if even like, there you go. There you go. Yes, we usually use coal iron. Yes, we put it in the coal and we let it get hot, and then we just wipe off the bottom so there is no charcoal on it, and then we just iron. And yeah, exactly. So nowadays, people, it's everything is by convenience. Even if you sit down and you told your child, oh, listen, go in the kitchen and get me a glass of water. It's a problem. You know, they want you to get up and go do it for yourself because it is so hard for them to do. Yes. Mhm. So once again, it's all about convenience. Today we have washing machine and dryers to do everything for us. Mhm. So in the Bible, patience is the ability to endure hardship and suffering without becoming frustrated, angry, or giving up. Patience is a fruit of spirit. It is willingness to wait on God, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. James 1, 3 and 4 says, James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad. Greetings. My brethren, count it is all joy when you fall in diverse temptation, knowing this, that the trying of your faith worketh patience. But let patience have her perfect work, that ye may be perfect and entire, wanting nothing. James 5, verse 7 says, Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waited for the precious fruit of the earth, and had long patience for it, until he received the early and latter rain. So here James teaches us that patience is not just waiting, it's God's method of producing maturity and completeness in us. God used time to build trust, trials to build endurance, and delays to develop our dependency on Him. So look at the story of Moses and Abraham. Moses was in the wilderness for 40 days. God uses his time to prepare Moses to deliver his people out of Pharaoh's bondage. Abraham was promised a son, but he had to wait years for that promise to be fulfilled. Patience is not only just waiting on God, it is also about responding like God. When anger rises, patience keeps us from sins. When frustration mounts, patience speaks softly instead of sharply. An impatient heart reacts harshly, but a patient heart reacts calmly. You may ask, why does God allow delays, detours, and difficulties? This is to build patience, which then build our faith. So you see, brethren, faith is a thing that we have to have. Without faith, we cannot serve the true and living God because he requires faith. In Isaiah 40, 31, tell us that results of waiting on the Lord. Tell us about the results of waiting on the Lord. But they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary, and they shall walk and not faint. Brethren, patience is not weakness, it is strength under control. It is the quiet confidence that says God promises still good, even if the process takes time. Because remember, God does not work on our time. He works on his own time. And sometimes we even pray to him and we want instant gratification. We want our prayers to be answered right away. And sometimes we intend to give up. But remember, God's timing is different from ours. Keep that in mind. So when you grow weary of waiting, remember Abraham, God's promise are sure. Remember Proverbs, patience reveals wisdom. Remember James, the husbandman waiting for the precious fruit of the earth. Remember that when we act outside of God's timing, even with good intentions, this often leads to unintended problems, while waiting patiently brings good promise to fulfillment. So let us endure, as Hebrew 10 and 36 says, for ye have need of patience, that after you have done the will of God, you might receive promise. So remember, brethren, patience is a virtue. So I repeat, patient is a virtue. Oh. In closing, brethren, life is not a spirit, it is a marathon. There are, there are mountains to climb, valleys to walk through, storms to endure. And in every step, God calls us to keep going, to persevere, to have faith, to trust Him, and to wait patiently for His promises. Faith says, God will. Trust says, God knows best. Hope says, it's not over. Patience says, I will wait until it's done. Remember this, faith is not just believing that God exists, but trusting that His plan, His timing, and His ways are perfect. Trust is not just when life is easy, it's proven when life is hard. Let's continue to build our faith, exercise patience, and maintain total dependency on the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. So when challenges arise, when patience runs thin, when the answers seem delayed, remember Psalms 25. Remember the faithfulness of Hebrews 11, and wait on the Lord. And with this, I will say, peace.